second to last weekly Quranic wisdom study of this season. Inshallah, next week will be the last one for this season, and then it will resume again, inshallah, in September. And then we stay tuned. There will be some other programs of Receiving Nur during the summer as well. So we're happy to have another session with Dr. Yamina. So we have been studying 20th word from the words by Badiou Zaman Said Nursi. And we have been reflecting on how we approach the Quran. And in the first couple weeks, we looked at the principle of recognizing the stories, the parables, the stories in the Quran of prophets as all tips of an iceberg, tips of a universal principle that applies to everyone. So today we are going to start a second section, and Dr. Yamina is going to lead us as usual, and you're welcome to join in with your comments and questions. And we're delighted to have Dr. Yamina with us before things get a break until September. So these are last two sessions for now with Dr. Yamina's weekly study. Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Yamina. And also at the end, please stay tuned because Sister Maha has an exciting announcement for the first 10 days of Dhul Hijjah, the first 10 days of July. Stay tuned, inshallah. Bismillah. Jazakumullah khair, Dr. Yamina.
Thank you, Isra. أعوذ بالله السميع العليم من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله تعالى وبركاته. If you would like, you can maybe announce the Labbaik series before Eid with Maha, if you want to do it at the beginning. And also there will be something else, a weekly program as well. So, I mean, this particular reading will end, but there will be something else, inshallah, during the summer. So, Maha, would you make an announcement at the end, or?
Whatever is best. So for now, inshallah, we're working on the Labbaik series, which will be which might be 9 or 8 days actually, because Eid is the 10th day, depending on moon sighting. Most probably starting July 1st, 6:30 to 7:30 p.m. Except for the Waqfat Arafat, except for the day before Eid, because this is the day where a lot of people are going to mosques and breaking fast communally and all of. The verse shorter this year is going to be 1 hour, and diverse visions and voices speaking on how to answer the call to God, because Labbaik means here I am, here I come. My Lord, here I am. And it's the chant that pilgrims do. So this is what we're going to be discussing, inshallah. You're welcome to join, to speak, to present. So I'll be in touch with everybody. We're in the phase of organizing right now. Jazakallah khair.
Jazakallah khair. So we're now starting the second station, even if we can't finish the whole of it. Of this 20th word. And in the first one, we learned how to read the Quran in a way that is always relevant to us here and now, in even stories that seems to be either particular or like has nothing to do with us. But we saw how when we pause and ponder, actually, they all have an aspect that look to us. And so is the second part, this so-called second station. We see something similar. but here it's related to the miracles of the prophets. So it starts with a flash of the Quran's miraculousness. Here, the Quran's miraculousness, the Quran being a miracle, i'jaz al-Quran, that shines on the miracles of the prophets. So the miracles of the prophet, we call them mu'jizat, but actually in the Quran itself, the word used for all the miracles of the prophet is ayah. And we talked about it a lot in the past. Every event, everything in the creation is called ayah, a signpost, something that bears meaning and messages from beyond. And the units of the Quran are ayat, singular ayah, and the miracles of the prophets are also ayah, which means in a way, and we've seen it in this word as well, what we feel like when we're talking about the rocks last week, what feels to us when we are in a state of ghafla as ordinary, natural, it just happens and we take it for granted, are actually not ordinary at all, because everything is interconnected with everything else in the past and in the future, here and now, and therefore the power needed to give existence to one single thing, however minute, however small it is a power that needs to encompass everything. And when I say everything, galaxies and everything, because not a single thing, not a single particle, not a single atom can exist by itself without the rest of the universe, the rest of all beings, the rest of all creation. And so this appellation, this terminology of ayah for everything, so the miracles of the Quran are signs, they are ayat, and so is everything else. Everything else that we take for granted, that something that just happens because we see it all the time, is also an ayah, is also a miracle of divine power and divine knowledge. So here it says, this is a flash on the miraculousness of the Quran that shines on the miracles of the prophets. And note carefully that the two questions and answers at the end. So these two questions and answers, they are at the very end of this station. I don't know if we'll have time to look at them today, most probably next week, even if we have to skip what's in between, because the end of this part, the second part, is important. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, in the name of God, the merciful, the compassionate, from Surah Al-An'am, Surah 6, Ayah 57, and we are told, وَلَا رَطْبٍ وَلَا يَابِسٍ إِلَّا فِي كِتَابٍ مُبِينٍ, nor anything fresh or dry, but it is in a record clear, a record or a book, Kitabun Mubin. So here it says 14 years ago, it means many years ago. Actually, it was written in 1957, and now 30 years have passed, but it's much more now. Many years ago, in my Quranic commentary called Isharatul I'jaz, Signs of Miraculousness of the Quran, of course, I wrote, it's a tafsir, one of the first books written by Imam Nursi rahimahullah, and it's written originally in Arabic. I wrote a discussion in Arabic about one of the mysteries of this verse 59. Well, this is part of the verse, actually. Now, two of my brothers, whose wishes are important in my view, have asked for an explanation of that discussion in Turkish. Not everyone could read the original. And so, relying on Almighty God's assistance and on the effulgence of the Quran, I say this: according to one interpretation, the clear book or record, Kitab Kitab al-Mubin, consists of the Quran. So there are different interpretations, but they are not the same. The same commentator may say that one aspect of Kitab al-Mubin looks to the Quran, it speaks about the Quran, and in other passages from the Quran, you understand that it speaks to something else as well. And it is related to that concept that we are always talking about, which is the Quran, as we know it, is the revelation, the divine speech, speaks about the creation, interprets the creation. It's like the tongue of the interpretation, the translation of the meanings of the ayat in the creation. And that's why you see this parallel of ayat in the Quran, the units, and the ayat in the creation. So many in the Islamic tradition talked about the creation as Quran as well, including Imam Nursi. So the creation itself is in a way a Quran, a recitation, reciting the messages from God, from the unseen, and the beautiful names of God, making God known. This ayah, 659, the whole ayah, well, at least the English interpretation, is with him are the keys to the unseen. None knows them except he, except God. He knows all that is in the land and sea. Not a leaf falls, but he knows it. And neither is there a single grain in the deep darkness of the earth, nor anything fresh or withered, but it is recorded in a clear book or in a clear record. So in some passages in the Quran, for instance, Surah An-Naml, Surah 27, ayah, the first ayah, it starts with Tasin, Tilka ayatul Quran wa kitabun mubin, Hudan wa bushra lil mu'minin. Tasin, these are the ayat, the signs, the verses of the Quran, a scripture, a book that makes things clear, a clear book. So clearly, it's talking about the Quran. In Surah Yusuf, Surah 12, the first ayah, it starts with Alif Lam Ra. Those are the ayat, the signs of the book that makes things clear. Alif Lam Ra, Tilka ayatul kitab al-mubin. In Surah Al-Hijr, Surah 15, it starts the first ayah with Alif Lam Ra, Tilka ayatul kitabi wa Qur'anin mubin. So it's not Al-Kitab al-Mubin, it's Kitab wa Qur'anun mubin. The other one is Ayatul Kitab al-Mubin. The other one is Al-Qur'an wa Kitab al-Mubin. So clearly it's talking about the Quran. In some other, this expression, Kitab al-Mubin, is repeated many times in the Quran. So for instance, in Surah Yunus, Surah 10, Ayah 61, we are told, in whatever matter you may be engaged, or whatever part of the Quran you are reciting, whatever work you are doing, you people, we witness you when you are engaged in it. Not even the weight of a speck of dust in the earth or sky escapes your sustainer, your Rabb, nor anything lesser or greater. It is all within a clear book, a clear record. في كتاب كل في كتاب مبين. So here it seems to be talking about something related to the creation, something related to divine knowledge pertaining to the creation. So I'm not going to talk about the connection between the two, but in the Quran, we have both. In Surah 11, Surah Hud, Ayah 6, it says...
What do you mean by both? Can you just
in some passages, it's clearly Kitab al-Mubin is referring to the Quran.
Quran, yes, and in some of them it refers to
some of them. Here it's referring to divine knowledge of the creation.
Mm-hmm. Everything is.
Yeah.
Okay. Just wanted to kind of.
So, and I'm saying like, I am not going to talk about the connection between the two. Imam Nursi talks about it in different parts in his tafsir in the Risale-i-Nur, but it's not the direct topic here. Just so that we know, if someone heard Kitab al-Mubin used in a way that is not referring directly to the Quran, it's because it's used in meaning, has different aspects in the way it's used in the Quran itself. So for instance, in Surah Hud, Surah 11, Ayah 6, we are told there is not a creature that moves on earth whose provision is not his concern. He knows where it lives and its final resting place. It is all there in a clear book, in a clear record. Kullun fi kitabin mubin. Again, it's the same, again pertaining to divine knowledge of all that is created. So here he's saying the clear book, or the clear record, sometimes it's translated as the clear record, Kitab Mubin, consists of the Quran, according to one interpretation. That's why he's saying that, because from one aspect it's that, from another aspect it may look to something different. The above verse is 659, states that everything, fresh or dry, is found within it. Is that so? So the question is, okay, so if Kitab al-Mubin, the clear book, refers to the Quran, does it mean that everything fresh or dry is found within this book, the Quran, meaning the Quran? The question is this. And the answer is yes, everything is found in it, since it pertains to divine knowledge of everything, since the Quran is coming from, is God speaking, so he knows. The one who speaks in the Quran is the one who knows everything. And the Quran is related to the creation. It is teaching us the meaning of the creation. So he says, yes, everything is found in it, in the Quran, but everyone cannot see this, because all the things it contains are found at different levels. So he's saying, yes, they are all there, but they are not all there explicitly. It's not like the Quran, you open and you find the story of anything you want. Sometimes the seeds, it's there as a seed. Sometimes the nuclei, sometimes the summaries, sometimes the principles, like we saw in the first part. Yes, all those things was contained, but all as the tip of a universal principle. Sorry? Sometimes the principles, sometimes the signs, here the signs, not ayah, but alama in Arabic, like as a indication, are found either explicitly or implicitly. Implicitly, again, indication-wise, as an allusion to something, or allusively, or vaguely, or as a reminder. So it's not always like there explicitly, let me find it. It's not an encyclopedia. One of these is expressed according, so why some are there explicitly, but some as seeds, but some implicitly or vaguely, or he says, all this is expressed according to need and in a manner suitable to the purposes of the Quran, the maqasid al-Quran. So the Quran is here for the first purpose is Tawheed, is to teach us who God is and how everything is making him known. Everything is pointing, indicating the one source of everything. Everything is refuting shirk. Yes?
When this was mentioned that everything is contained in the Quran, sometimes as seeds, sometimes as nuclei, sometimes as an indication. The verse that came to mind, I wanted to share it as an example. There's a verse that says here, Surah Al-Imran, verse 140. The phrase that came to my mind was "Tilka al-ayyam nudawiluha bayna an-nas." These are the days that we, portion to human beings, alternate. So there's it's here in this verse. It's talking about misfortune that touched you, it touched other people too, and then these ups and downs. There's a purpose and meaning to that, and it goes on. So it's one thing. Very briefly, it seems like it covers the entire history. In a way that in history, what happens, ups and downs and difficulties, and where in that principle, a lot of events in life and in history is packed in as a summary, as it were. So in that sense, I think in that sense, Imam Nursi is saying that everything is in the Quran, not as a history book. It's not going to give you any details about any kind of history. But it does contain principles.
Because that's not the point. It's even when it's alluding to those things, it's alluding to them in a way to teach us how to look at them from the perspective of connecting them to the purpose of their creation, of seeing them as the signposts, the ayat that they are, of seeing them as the meaningful happenings that are guiding us in this life, like landmarks in our life. So that's why he said it's according to need. That's why if something is repeated explicitly again and again in the Quran, that's itself, the repetition itself is a sign of how much we need it. It's like someone who does not drink water, drinks maybe other liquids or gets the liquid from other food. And then if you are given water again and again, it just means that that's what you need, or air, you need it more often. And food less, and other things as well. So according to need and in a manner suitable to the aims and purposes of the Quran, maqasid al-Quran, which is first Tawheed, making known God as the only source of everything, and then resurrection after death, for instance, the hereafter, and are all part of maqasid al-Quran. And in connection with the requirements of the position of where that is coming, whatever. For instance, so things like the airplane, electricity, he's talking about this because it's coming at the end. There will be a question where he is asked, since the Quran, everything is contained in the Quran, then what about all these technological findings, all these scientific findings, discoveries, all the things that we feel, lots of people feel are really extraordinary. So they ask, so why doesn't he talk about them? And he will say, are they really? I mean, he compares an airplane to a fly? Which one is more miraculous? Can you compare the two? Not at all. As far as creativity is concerned. But anyways, here he's saying things like airplane, electricity, railways, and the telegraph. That time they had telegraph. I think now it would be Wi-Fi, the internet, have come into existence as wonders of science and technology as the result of man's progress in science and industry. Surely the all-wise Quran, which addresses all humankind, does not neglect these. This is again part of the question. And he's saying the answer, indeed, it has not neglected them. It indicates them in two ways. So there are two ways the Quran indicates them. As we have seen here, explicitly, implicitly. Here it's going to be implicit. But even the implicit is going to be either elusively, vaguely, as a reminder. And there are two ways. The first, in the form of the miracles of the prophets, and that's what he's going to talk about here. The second, which he's not going to talk about, is this. It indicates them in the form of certain historical events. For instance, so he gives this passage from Surah Al-Buruj, Surah 85, 4-8, and woe to the makers. Yes, go ahead.
To add that he is talking about airplane, electricity, and so on, because thinking about early 20th century, these are very kind of unusual, like almost like breakthroughs all of a sudden happened. These are major changes. In a way, it's like the way the internet has been a major change for us, and then it has been since then. Technology and these wonders that have come through science has been a major preoccupation for our time, and so much so that he feels the need to address it as if the Quran contains everything, fresh and dry. This is a major thing, and how is that implied or contained in the Quran? That is a question understandable, not just for his time but also for our time, because I personally feel there's a lot of excitement about science and technology, and what are the we have a whole science fiction literature and so on, and I have heard in some contexts people are saying this is so useful, and then what does religion do? It doesn't help us calculate the speed of light, nothing. So we have talked about this before, so I don't want to take it to that discussion, but I just want to note that if we don't see this, then we don't keep this in mind, then it sounds a little bit kind of interesting. Why is he talking about technology and science and trying to see any indication of that in the Quran? Why? It's because it's a major aspect of our lives today, or since 19th or 20th century, and so it makes sense for that there to be a connection to it in the Quran, because the Quran is here to make sense of our experience and so on. So I just want to...
It's part of our life, and it's so major. Maybe we don't always talk about it or think about it because we take it for granted, but it's such a pervasive phenomenon in our life that lots of people, whether they realize it or not, but they better realize it, because it's like the cow of the people of Musa alayhi salam. It became the cow of lots of people, because it's the cow of the dominant culture, and we're part of it, and lots of Muslims are part of that. So in a way, people worship science, worship in the sense that everything is credible if it is scientific. If science approves it, then it must be true. In this sense, giving it lots of not only credibility, but authority. So it is there, whether, and we just sometimes don't realize that, but or we don't question it, but it's a big idol. So it's not only about what the scientific, it's not even scientific discovery, it's really technology, but also that comes with an interpretation from scientists, and usually we take both, we conflate the two. So it seems like the so-called scientific interpretation, explanation, although science does not explain, science only works with things, it doesn't know what it means really. But those explanations, because they've been used to, historically, to take the place of religion. So people who believe in God or believe in religion, believe in something, at the same time, they may believe also in the scientific explanation. And therefore you find among Muslims especially, either we try to find a, that there is no contradiction between the two. And if there is anything like that, then we go and reinterpret the Quran in the light of the scientific explanation and not the other way around. Lots of people do that because for them, the unwavering, the point of reference for the truth is science, as if. Although science itself keeps changing because science is the outcome of people, and their interpretation is definitely based on their own beliefs. And even the fact part of what they find is always incomplete because it's always a small part of a bigger picture. And that's why it keeps changing. Yet, because we deify science, we imagine it to be this point of reference, and we want to read religion, or in this case, the Quran, against it and not the other way around. It's done, of course, without realizing, but it shows that there is an idolization of science among believers, among Muslims. In this case, it is important.
Yes, and that's an important subject on its own, to be mindful and critically analyze what's being said in the name of science, or how science is being blown out of proportions, even though it's only one of the ways in which we are looking at the world, and it has its limitations and so on. I just wanted to highlight that with all of that, it's a fact that scientific discovery and technology has radically or substantially changed or influences our everyday life. I mean, once I read something like, it was about an American president, Abraham Lincoln, and they were saying that he had more in common with Abraham, the prophet Abraham 1,000 years ago, just in terms of life, than with us, because there's no electricity, nothing. So lots of the rhythm of the day, our lives, a lot of things have changed just with this faster communication, faster interaction and electricity. Like, it has really affected our lives. So I think in that, just from that perspective, not being uncritical about science, but from that perspective, I can understand why Imam Nursi here is saying, okay, this is a major thing, and let's see if there's an indication of this in the Quran, if the Quran contains everything.
So the first, he says there are two ways that the Quran indicates to this. Indeed, the Quran has not neglected them. It indicates them in two ways. Them here is all these technological discoveries or scientific discoveries. And he says two ways. He is going to pursue only one way, the first way, and the second way, he is going to point to it but not pursue it. And the second way is this. For instance, in this surah, Surah Al-Buruj, Surah 85, ayah 4 to 8, woe to the makers of the pit of fire, fire supplied abundantly with fuel. Behold, they set over against the fire, and they witness all that they are doing against the believers. I changed something because the past there is not correct. It means that they sit over the fire or they sit by the fire while they're witnessing what they are doing. And this fire is being fueled. It's a fuel-stocked fire. And ayah 8, and they ill-treat them for no other reason that they believe in God, the Mighty, the one to whom all praise is due. Likewise, in Surah Yasin, Surah 36, ayah 41, 42, he says, in the loaded ark, and we have created for them similar vessels on which they ride. And it says here, this sentence indicates that the rail, is it this one? Yeah, that the railway has taken the world of Islam prisoner. The railway at that time, now it's not only the railway, but very powerful ship, and also planes and airplanes. So the world of Islam was mostly all became colonized and became prisoner because of the power of weapons and technology from the West. And the unbelievers defeated Islam here, defeated the people, Muslim, with this power. Also, just as the verses like these point to the railway, so the following verse alludes to electricity, as well as pointing to numerous other lights and mysteries. And he's pointing to verse 35 of Surah Al-Nur, Surah the Light. The Surah is called the Light, and it is well known for this particular ayah 35 of Surah 24. Imam Ghazali rahimahullah has a whole Risale treatise on this, but in a spiritual way. But some people also take it and as an allusion to electricity. So God is the light of the heavens and the earth. The parable of his light is as if there was a niche, and with it is a lamp. The lamp encloses in glass. The glass, as it were, a brilliant star lit from a blessed tree, an olive, neither of the east nor of the west. Like electricity, it's just motion of electrons, whose oil is well nigh luminous, though the fire scarce touched it. Light upon light, God guides whom he wills to his light. And until light upon light, he says this sentence, whose oil is well nigh luminous, though the fire scarce touched it. Light upon light illuminates this allusion to electricity. Since numerous people have occupied themselves with the second sort of indications in the Quran to some scientific discoveries, and they are in need, they are in need of much care and elucidation. I mean, you can't just say, oh, this verse alludes to that. You need some kind of explanation. It means you can't just be someone who works with the Quran. You have to also know more about electricity and how it works, and whatever you are talking about in science, you have to know about it. Or it has to be a committee of both commentators on the Quran and scientists, otherwise it may not be very wise. So he says lots of people talked about it, and this subject needs much care and elucidation. And since they are many, and now we shall content ourselves with these verses that allude to the railway and electricity, and shall not open that door. As for the first sort, it indicates them in the form of the miracles of the prophets, as we shall mention some of these by way of example. So this is what he's going to talk about here. So he's really saying, like, there is a wisdom in explicitly mentioning the miracles of the prophets. There are many wisdoms, of course, in mentioning explicitly the miracles of the prophets in the Quran, but it can't be, usually people talk about it like you get questions, but I didn't see it. So how do I confirm this ayah of the Quran, this passage of the Quran? I haven't seen any of these miracles. And we saw in the first part that, yes, we haven't seen it, but maybe we see something related to it here and now. And so here, it's a continuation of that. He's saying not only that we've seen something that we can confirm, but okay, so we confirm and do what? How does it look to us as far as something to act upon? So one of the aspects of one of the wisdom looks to us here and now, to humanity, to people, that each of the miracles of the prophets look to us. We have something to learn from it and to do right now. So he's saying the all-wise Quran sends the prophets to man's community, to people, as leaders and vanguards of spiritual and moral progress. This we all agree, that they are spiritual leaders. Similarly, it gives all of them a number of wonders and makes them the masters and foremen in regards to humankind's material progress, and commends people to follow them absolutely. So they are not only spiritual and moral leaders, they also are masters in material progress. And it's because we have this civilization, well, I don't know even if we can call it civilization when it's more and more losing all kinds of moral basis. Moral values are totally being dissolved, and the sacred doesn't exist. Actually, the sacred is being systematically desacralized. So I don't know if we can call this kind of culture a civilization. I mean, in my book, it's not. Because civilization, in my understanding, is something that brings us up, that helps us develop our humanity. So it's not true progress. But even materially, if we want true material progress, we still need spiritual and moral values. That's why still the leaders are the prophets. And how do you say, isharatan, as an indication, the prophets have been given miracles that look to the material world. That's why at least in the Muslim world, until, I mean, pre-modernity, because once the Western culture, materialist Western culture, took over the world, then the old values started deteriorating, and lots of traditions were also broken by colonial powers. But in many places in the Muslim world, they had, like, the craftsmen had guilds. And those guilds were, for instance, you would have teachers in a madrasa, in a seminary. And they would go early morning, they are teaching, and then they would go to the market. Usually the marketplace will be around the madrasa and around the mosque. And they would go to their own shops, and they are craftsmen. They would work something, wood carving, metal, all kinds of things. But so they were not only making a living, because that crafts was also a means of learning to focus, to concentrate, to be patient, there is a creation. You see how the be-anity is kun fayakun. You see the different names of God manifesting in that art, like beauty and all kinds of meaningful things. And so there was, usually those guilds had their patron would be a prophet. For the tailors, for instance, it will be Idris alayhi salam. If it's a clockmaker, it will be Yusuf alayhi salam. If it is ships, it will be Noah alayhi salam, and things like that. But they were related, like the spiritual. There was no division between the spiritual and the material. And we can understand that because the material world is the expression of the meaning that feeds the spiritual world. They are all ayat, and they are all connected to the same source and indicate the same source. So here, thus, just by speaking of the spiritual and moral perfections of the prophets, it is encouraging, the Quran is encouraging people to benefit from them. So too, in discussing their miracles, the Quran is inferring encouragement to achieve similar things and to imitate them. So this is important. So it's not only talking about their miracles. Okay, we understand and we confirm, Sadaqallah al-Azim, because we see all the miracles around us. And also, it's saying there is something also, an encouragement to achieve similar things. It may even be said that like spiritual and moral attainments, material attainments and wonders were first given to humankind as a gift by the hands of miracles. And this is important. It's important in our mind, in our perception, to realize that all the so-called technology is a gift of God. It's not people that are creating those things, and as though they are competing with God, competing with religion. They just found the electricity exists in the creation. You just find a way to use it, to make use of it. You're not creating it. So this is very, very important. It's a tool. We can use it for good. We can use it for khair or for shar, for harm. That's up to us. But that's the same with any other creation. It may be even So it may even be said that like spiritual and moral attainments, material attainments and wonders were first given to humankind as a gift by the hand of miracles, the divine hand. Thus, what first gave man the gifts of the ship, which was the miracle of Noah, Nuh alayhi salam, peace be upon him, and the clock, a miracle of Yusuf alayhi salam, and was the hand of miracles. It is a subtle indication to this truth that most craftsmen have a prophet as the patron of their craft. For example, seamen have Noah, watchmakers have Yusuf, and tailors have Idris, and so on, alayhim salam. Indeed, investigative scholars and the science of rhetoric are in agreement that all the Quran's verses contain numerous aspects of guidance and instruction. The verses of the miracles of the Quran, which are the most brilliant of the Quran of miraculous expositions, verses, are not therefore mere historical stories, but they comprise numerous meanings and varieties, source of guidance for us here and now. Yes, in mentioning the Prophet's miracles, the Quran is tracing the final limit of man's science and industry. It is pointing the finger at his furthest aims. It is specifying his final goals, and by striking the hand of encouragement on man's back, it is urging him forward towards them. Just as the past is the store of the seeds of the future and mirror to its attributes, so the future is the arable field of the past and the mirror to its states. Now we have explained only a few samples of that most extensive source as examples. For example, the verse to Sulaiman alayhi salam, we made the wind obedient. Its early morning stride was a month's journey, and its evening stride was a month's journey, which describes one of Sulaiman alayhi salam's miracles, the subjugating of air. This says, Sulaiman traversed the distance of 2 months in one day by flying through the air. It is thus suggesting that the road is open for man to cover such a distance in the air, in which case, O man, since the road is open to you, since there is such a law of creation, if Sulaiman alayhi salam is doing it as a miracle, it means there is such a law. It is possible. Then, O man, since the road is open to you, reach this level. And in meaning, Almighty God is saying through the tongue of this ayah, of this verse, O man, I mounted one of my servants on the air because he gave up the desires of his soul. If you too give up laziness, which comes from the nafs al-amara, the ego. So here soul is really ego. This is British, because in English, it's in American, when you say soul, we think more spirit. And here it's soul as ego. From the ego, and benefit thoroughly from certain of my laws in the cosmos, you too may mount it. You too may mount air. And we will see at the very end, here he's talking about you give up the desires of the ego. Here in this culture, in this materialistic science, someone may give up laziness. So laziness comes from the ego, so you may leave that, but still work in the name of the ego. And so you get something, you still can have airplane and travel, but we don't know if we could get something even better than this if it was done with less ego in it. there will be maybe less pollution, less exploitation, because even if it is the same airplane, the way it is used to harm others, for instance, as war, to go and throw bombs and things, even if it's the same kind of product. I am sure you can find better products if it's not coming from the ego, but even with the same product, they can be used in a more beneficial way. But now technology is used to exploit other people. Apart from war technology, even the rest is all made to make money, power, and exploit. And you can see that more in the medical field, like the pharmaceuticals. It's not about healing people. The aim is to make money and to control. So here it's about giving up the desires of the soul I think is important as well. And this reminds me of the dua that we make when we are riding, when we are in a car or anything that's moving, and we say Subhanaka. سبحان الذي سخر لنا هذا وما كنا له مقرنين وإنا إلى ربنا لمنقلبون. So that ayah is in Surah Al-Zukhruf. And if you look at the context where it is, so the ayah, the dua that we make, it's an ayah from the Quran. We're saying glory be to God, Subhana. We're refuting any kind of shirk. Nothing can make, it's 43, we want 43:10 to 15. And the ayah is 43:13, but just to have a context, so we are refuting with Subhanaka, refuting shirk. Nothing can do this except you. You are the one who sakhara. You made all these things subservient to us. And then وَمَا كُنَّا لَهُ مُقْرِنِينَ, we could not have done it ourselves. So if we start from 10, it is He, it is God, He here, God, it is God who has made the earth a cradle for you and has provided for you ways of livelihood thereon, so that you may تهتدون here, لعلكم تهتدون. It can be understood both ways, so that you might find your way, but also might find the right way. So the way here is not only it's both the way in a physical sense, and when you find the right way, if you realize that the world has been made in a way that I can find my way, I will find the right path to God, to truth, to source. The next one, 11, and it is He, and it is God who sends down again and again water from the sky in due measure. We resurrect dead land with it, with this water, and likewise you will be resurrected from the grave. And it is He, it is God who has created all opposites, and it is He who has provided for you ships and animals to ride, ships and animals and cars and all kinds of things, whatever we ride, planes, and in order that you might gain mastery over them, and that when you gain mastery, you might remember your sustainer''s blessing. So the fact that we have mastery over the ships, the plane, these cars, is a blessing from our Rabb. And then say, Subhanaka, glory be unto Subhanalladhi, Him who has made all this subservient to our use, Otherwise, we would not have done it ourselves. So this pile of metal for a car, for instance, or a plane could not be taking me like this on its own, except by God's will. And the fact that someone thought about it is also a divine inspiration, and it can only work because that's the law of creation, not because the person inspired can create things. We don't have the power of being it is. We only find what already is. And then in 14 and 15, truly it is to our sustainer that we are returning. وَإِنَّا إِلَى رَبِّنَا لَمُنْقَلِبُونَ. It is to our Rabb that we are returning. And we are returning is not only we human beings, but even the car, the plane, everything is returning to him. So clearly it's not from me, it's not from them. And yet they attribute to him offspring from among the being he has created. Truly, human being is clearly lacking in gratitude. Truly, إِنَّ الْإِنسَانَ لَكَفُورٌ مُبِينٌ. He is a clear kafur. Kafur is an intensive form of kafir. Kafir is used for the disbeliever, but it's also used for ungrateful, because shirk is about covering the truth when we forget about the truth and cover the real source, and we imagine things to be doing it, and people to be creating those things, and those things to be serving us the way they are doing, we think. Then no wonder the result of shirk and disbelief is ingratitude, because we are not grateful to God for that blessings. We do not interact with it as a blessing, as a miracle. Actually, it's a miracle. And we have metal and it's moving. Bi-idhnillah. Subhanallah. It's a miracle, yet we don't feel the awe, we don't feel filled with humility and gratitude, because we take it for granted. Can we go to the end of page 269, or maybe we should just stop here, but just to, after this is Sulaiman alayhi salam. Afterwards, he will give the example of Musa alayhi salam striking the rock with his staff, and Isa alayhi salam, Jesus, healing the blind and leper, and quickening the dead, reviving the dead by God's live. And was it Dawood alayhi salam? Or Sulaiman alayhi salam, softening of iron, and was given wisdom. Yes, it's Sulaiman alayhi salam, wisdom and speech. He spoke to the ants and animals. So he gives all those examples, but it will be all the same thing. But in page, at the end of page 269, he talks about another one of these miracles, which is the teaching of the names. And you remember, teaching of the names was also mentioned in the first part. And he taught, and for example, the verse, and he taught Adam the names, all of them. So from the names, he's going to go to science, being how the relationship between science and the names. For instance, medicine is the study of the name healer. And then there will be the two questions, again, related to technology, modern technology. Let me go to page, what did I say? 69. So he taught Adam all the names, which says Adam alayhi salam, greatest miracle in the question of the supreme Khilafah, vice regency, was the teaching of the names. Like the miracles of the other prophets, each allude to a particular human wonder. The miracle of Adam alayhi salam, he also talks about the Quran being a miracle. Maybe next week we can go over those. Like the miracles of the other prophets, each allude to a particular human wonder. The miracle of Adam alayhi salam, who was the father of all the prophets, and the inauguration of the office of prophethood, nubuwa, or risala, points almost explicitly to the final points of all human attainments and progress, and humanity's final goals. Through the tongue of illusion, Almighty God, may his glory be exalted, Jalla Jalaluh, is saying with this verse, Allama Adam al-asma' kullaha, he taught Adam all of the names, O sons of Adam, since a proof of their superiority over the angels in the question of vicegerency, which is being a Khalifa, I taught your forefather all the names. You too, since you are his sons and the inheritors of his abilities, should learn all the names, and in your position as holder of the supreme trust, the amana, demonstrate before all creatures your worthiness. I mean, all the angels prostrated to Adam just because of this. For the way is open to you to rise to exalted rank, such as holding the highest position over all beings in the universe, and for vast creatures like the earth to be subjected to you. Come on, step forward, adhere to all my names, and rise. But your forefather was once deceived by Satan and temporarily fell to the earth from a position like paradise. Beware. In your progress, do not follow Satan. And from the heavens of the divine wisdom, thus fall into misguidance of nature. Say it's natural. What's natural about it? Natural means it's happening on its own. It means that's how it happens all the time. It means I don't care where it's, it just means consciously or unconsciously, we're covering up and therefore refuting and rejecting its miraculous source of anything we are talking about as natural. So that's from divine wisdom, seeing all the names behind everything, to the misguidance of nature. And what science is now, it is a naturalistic and materialistic science. Everything is attributed to nature, whatever it is. As long as it's not divine, as long as it's not doesn't transcend the physical world, it's okay. Continuously raising your head, and studying carefully my most beautiful names, make your sciences and your progress steps by which to ascend to those heavens, the heavens of the beautiful names. Then you may rise to my dominical names, Asma Rabbaniya, the names of our Rabb, which are the realities and the sources of your science and attainments. And you may look to your sustainer, to your Rabb, with your hearts through the telescopes of the names, Al-Asma al-Husna. Inshallah, if we had conscious believers doing science, it would be, inshallah, like that. So science would be a means to know God better and better and to proclaim, make tasbih of his names. A significant point and important mystery, by describing under the title of the teachings of the names all the attainments of learning and scientific progress and wonders of technology which man manifests through his comprehensive disposition, this wondrous verse the teaching of the names, all the names to Adam, contains the following subtle and elevated illusion. All attainments and perfections, all learning, all progress, and all sciences have an elevated reality which is based on one of the divine names, actually on at least one, but somewhere else he says each name looks to all the other names. Because if you say medicine looks to healer, but healer, there is wisdom, there is compassion, there is knowledge, there is power, all looking to the name healing, the name healer, Shafi. So they are all the sciences, all the attainments have an elevated reality, which is based on one of the divine names, on being based on the name which is concealed under numerous veils and has various manifestations and different spheres. The sciences and arts and attainments find their perfection and become reality when the scientist, the person doing the work, finds the connection and relates to the source, then those things finds their reality. They are not some incomplete and deficient shadow like they are now. They give you something material, but with it, they want to insinuate some, refute the spiritual, refute the divine, and therefore they cause more. For instance, they may heal you physically, but they cause so much damage to the soul that you find people who are maybe somehow healthy physically, but emotionally, mentally, spiritually, they are devastated, miserable, and sometimes even because the physical is under the influence of the spiritual and the emotional, it ends up that even our physical health is erodes, is affected. And you find that even the way science became, like in medicine, it became so fragmented that there is no holistic, well, more and more people want to bring the holistic, but the holistic does not go with the system of exploitation, doesn't make as much money. People started seeing that even the body is being fragmented. You are a specialist in throat, and the other one is specialist in eye, the other one is specialist in the whatever, the heart. But they're all related. It's one human being, and how we feel is going to affect everything. And that's all because there is this, the intention is not sincere, and there is a huge disconnect with the purpose of life, the meaning of life, who we are and what we are doing in this world. So you can see how they are incomplete, and they are a deficient shadow of what true medicine, healing should be. For example, engineering is a science. Its reality and final point reaches to Almighty's God name, all just and determiner, and observes with all their majesty the wise manifestation of those names in the mirror of engineering. And for example, medicine is a science and also an art. Its final point and reality are based on the absolutely wise one's name of healer, Shafi, through observing and that name's compassionate manifestations in the vast pharmacy of the earth. Medicine finds its perfection and becomes reality. So it's a shadow now, and it's incomplete, and it can only find its perfection and becomes reality when it is connected to the name the all-wise names of healer and the manifestations of compassion of that name in the world. Shall we stop here maybe? I just wanted to give a little bit of, we can carry on reading this and then the two questions.
Next time.
So that, because we read only one miracle, the miracle of Sulaiman alayhi salam. He gives many miracles, but we can't read them all on your own. In each one, he's going to give how it looks to our time. Not only that, but also he's saying that actually the technology that we have now still has not reached the limit, according to the miracles of the Quran. We can look at that too. But I thought the last miracle of the teaching of the names was something important, and we can carry on reading next time. And the two questions related to the, I think it's on page 273, there will be two important answers to two important questions. He's asked about again, technology. It's like someone says, okay, we got all this, but still, where is technology in all this? Any comment, anything?
Today, it's quite very quiet. We don't also have any comments.
Personally, I think, I mean, I am not, how do you say, busy with anything to do with science for a long time. So it's not part of what I think about, but I remember that many decades ago, when I was myself working in the field of science, these kinds of things were for me very healing, and like it was a breath of fresh air, because however much we may say that everything is a blessing from God, but without realizing there is a disconnect when it comes to technology. And this is again like giving us an opportunity to renew that awareness that all this is a blessing. It's actually either a blessing or not, whatever we do with it. We are grateful for it, we're aware that it is from God, or we forget that it is from God and we actually use it without realizing as a way to deify so-called science, I mean the institution of science, which happened to be, unfortunately, a very materialistic, atheistic science. I mean, it's nothing wrong with studying the world. Actually, in this 20th word, what we read, he's saying it's actually an encouragement to go and work, but not in this way, not in this incomplete shadow-like materialistic way, but in a way that will brings perfection to human beings, in a way that complements our spirituality and becomes a means to increase it, brings clarity to it, brings us closer to knowing God, and make science a way to glorify Him and to be even more grateful to Him. Inshallah. Okay, then سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وارنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه آمين Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Sayyidil Mursaleen wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi ta'ala wa barakatuh. So we'll see you, inshallah, bi'idhnillah, next Thursday. Meeting, with me will be the end until after summer in September, inshallah. But we will have the Labbaik series with Maha, inshallah. I'll be with Maha, inshallah.
You will be in the Labbaik series, yes, inshallah.
Maha will be leading it and inviting different voices to share with us, inshallah. And afterwards, we will have also other weekly activities, inshallah.
Inshallah. Yes.
Amanillah, fi amanillah.
Amanillah. Just to remind that Labbaik series is on the first 10 days, within the first 10 days of Zulhijjah, preparing towards the Hajj, towards the Eid, and this will be the third year of Sister Maha organizing it.
Starting July the 1st, I think, inshallah.
Yes, so it's going to start July 1st.
7:30 p.m.
Yes, 6 or 7:30 Eastern time, inshallah, and again the same zone. And it will be announced in next week's newsletter too, but mark your calendars, inshallah.
Of course, Dr. Yamina will be the discussant, inshallah.
Yes. Alhamdulillah. Okay. Jazakallah khair, Dr. Yamina and Maha. We're excited. Jazakallah khair.
Everyone.
Yeah. Thank you. And inshallah, we'll see you in our last weekly Quranic wisdom study with Dr. Yamina for this season, inshallah, next week. Assalamu alaikum.
But it's not the last of other things.
Yeah, so receiving no, we want to keep up receiving no instead of taking a break. Yes, Dr. Yamina, that was a good advice. So inshallah, receiving no activity.